Greetings, it's Iain from RTO here. Welcome to Marathon Wednesday, and today we're going to kick off with part one of the Neil Young story. And we're going to start off with Neil Young and Crazy Horse. Now, we covered the Crazy Horse albums without Neil on Monday. They made, as we know, 6 albums as just on their own. But there are 15 studio albums that Crazy Horse did with Neil Young, and I've included another album as well. So busy one today, so we're going to crack on. So coming in at number 16 is an album from 1987, and it is called Life. And this album largely consists of songs that Young debuted during the 1986 live Rusted Out Garage tour. There were some studio overdubs put on it, and this was released in 1987. So it's Neil Young on vocals, guitar and harmonica. The Crazy Horse members were Frank San Pedro on guitars and keyboards, Billy Talbot as ever on the bass, and Ralph Molina on the drums. First track on this one is called Mid-East Vacation. I'll tell you now, I'm not keen on these albums that are called studio albums, but they're actually recorded live in a concert with overdubs. Don't like them as a folk. It's alright, that is. Then we have A Long Walk Home. It's a good song. Breath's the one on it. It's a great vocal from Neil. Around the World, good little rocker. Inca Queen is another good little rocker as well. Too Lonely. They're all good tracks. Princes of Rock and Roll, great guitars on that. Crying Eyes, same, and Lonely When the Heart Breaks, and We Never Dance. Now, I'm not going to say too much about this album because to me it's a live album with just some overdubs. But the music's good, I'll give it that. It's not a bad listen, but I think it should be called a live album. So I'm going to call this one an RTO ranking 5 out of 10. Okay. Coming in at number 15 is an album called Early Daze, and it includes some of the early recordings of Neil Young and Crazy Horse. Sorry. So on here you've got Neil Young playing, Danny Whitten, Billy Talbot, Ralph and Molina and Jack Mitchell. Okay, some of these tracks we've talked about. Dance 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 was on one of the Crazy Horse album. Come On Baby Let's Go Downs will be mentioned. Winter Long, Everybody's Alone, Wandering, Cinnamon, Look at All These Things, Helpless, which appears actually on a Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young album, Birds, which is from Down by the River. Now, I've mentioned this one because it is a very good album. It is early versions of some great songs. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 5.5. Okay, coming in at number 14 from 2022, we have got World Record. We've got Neil Young that plays lots of things, including the Maxophone and Wurlitz electric guitar and upright piano. And we've got for Crazy Horse, we've got Nils Lofgren. He does lap steel guitar and bottleneck guitars. Billy Talbot and Ralph Molina as ever. So the first track on this one is called Love Earth. After it plods away, I think Neil's vocals are a little bit flat on this, unfortunately. Then my favourite track on this one is called Overhead. It's a proper boogie shuffle sort of track, and it's a great vocal from Neil. I do that. I Work With You, Earth Ringtone, but not very memorable. It just seems to plod away. This Old Planet, Changing Days, a good song. I love Ralph's drumming on this. Super. He's still got it, so excellent track. The World is in Trouble Now, very bluesy. Great vocal from Neil on that. Break the Chain comes next. Good little rocker, solid track. The Long Day Before, very quirky. It's got a nice bit of keyboard on there, and the backing vocals are good. Walking on the Road to the Future continues on a little bit from The Long Day Before, and it's pretty good. The Wanderer Won't Wait, not a big fan of this. It's all flat and boring. Chevrolet, a little bit long. It's 15 minutes long. It just doesn't work for me. I think the guitar bit in the middle could have been cut down a bit. It doesn't go anywhere. It's disjointed. Not a favourite of mine. And then we've got a little bit of This Old Planet again. Don't know. Unfortunately, I found this one a little bit flat. It's got some nice songs on it, but you know that Chevrolet was just far too long. So I'm going to give that one an RTO ranking of 6 out of 10. Okay, coming in at number 13. This was actually the 43rd album that Neil Young had worked on, and it came out in 2021, and it's called Barn. So Neil Young on here. We got Nils Lofgren, Billy Talbot, and Ralph Molina. So first song is called Songs of the Season. It's a good song, but Neil was struggling with some high notes on this, and it sort of went, oh, you know, oh dear, bit strainy. It's a shame because it is a very good song. Heading West, one of my favourite songs on here. I love the distorted guitars, absolutely great. Change Ain't Never Gonna, a little bluesy song, really good. Canarican, I love that. There's a distinctive sound on these records, that distorted guitar bit, and it's a great vocal from Neil. My favourite track on this one is Shape of You. It's it's a bluesy with a nice piano piece. It's an excellent little track. They Might Be Lost. I think as you know, we all get older, our voices change, and I think Neil struggled on this one. Personally, it sounded very sort of strainy vocal on that. Human Race is next, a good little rocker. Love his vocal on this one. It really works. It's great. Tumbling Through the Years, another nice track, gentle. And Neil's vocals are fine on that. Welcome Back. There's some nice guitar bits on this one, but it's a long track. It's 8 minutes. I think it could have been condensed to be around about 5. Don't Forget Love. A very poor vocal on that one. Not, it makes me sad. It's a good album with some good tracks, but I think some of the tracks that Neil's vocal range is not as good as it was, and that's not, which makes me sad really. But on the strength of the songs, I'm going to give it an RTO ranking of 6.3. Okay, coming in at number 12 from 2019, and this was his first album with Crazy Horse since 2012, and it's Colorado. So we've got Neil, we've got Nils, we've got Billy, we've got Ralph, and join them on here on glass harmonica, Joe Yankee. First track is a short little track called Think of Me. It's a solid start, some nice guitar work on here from Neil, and the backing vocals are very good as well, because you've got Nils, Billy and Ralph, who are fine singers in their own right. She Showed Me Love, one of the longer tracks, but it works, this one. I think it's because it's broken up and it sort of flows better. Some nice guitar work on here from Neil. I think it's Ralph's drums that keep the track interesting, because he changes the beat a little bit. Excellent little track actually. Olden Days, Another track where Neil struggles to hit some of them high notes, but it is a nice song, but he just didn't hit some of them notes. Favourite track on this one is called Help Me Lose My Mind. It's that distorted guitar, which I love. It's another good vocal from Neil. Green is blue. The piano on here is fantastic. I think it's Neil's that does the piano work on this. It's absolutely delightful. Shut It Down, a good little rocker, solid track. Classic sounding Crazy Horse and Neil Young. Milky Way, not a big fan of this. It just seems to plod along, and it's not a very good arrangement. It's not very memorable. Eternity, it's a very simple arrangement. I prefer these simple arrangements, and Neil is on fire on that one. You know, for an older album, it's a real strong vocal. Rainbow of Colours, good vocals all round here. It's a nice sounding track, some nice guitar work as ever. Then we have I Do. It's got that last album with the last track on the album feel about it. Yeah, bung it on to make it something. Okay, there's a little bit of Flats singing on it as well. There's some good tracks as well. You know, it's a bit of a mixed bag, so I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 6.5. Okay, coming in at number 11 from 1979. It's Rust Never Sleeps, which features both studio and live tracks. So we've got Neil Young, of course. We've got Nicolette Larson on vocals, Joe Osborne on bass, Carl T. Himmel on drums, which is Sail Away, and then on the other side you've got Frank Sampiro, Billy Talbot and Ralph Molina. So the live, we've got some live stuff. We've got My Hey Hey Out of Blue, pretty good. Thrasher, it's not too bad. Ride My Llama and Pocahontas and Sail Away. Side 2 is with Crazy Horse and its Powdered Finger, Welfare Mothers, pretty cool track. So then Delivery, excellent little track, and Hey Hey Back into the Black, which is sort of like the other one. Once again, as I said, I'm not a great lover, but there's some nice of these sort of studio mixed albums. But there are some really nice acoustic numbers on here, and I think that's what I've based the ranking on, the acoustic stuff, and it's pretty cool. So I'm going to give that with an RTO ranking of 6.6. Okay, coming in at number 10. This is from 2003, and it's Greendale. And Greendale is a 10-song musical novel. We've got Neil Young, of course, Ralph and Billy, and we've got the Mountanettes, which do the vocals, and that's Peggy Young, Nancy Hall, Twink Brewer and Sue Hall. First track on this one is called Falling From Above. It's a really good song. I love the story. Each track tells a story, and it's some lovely playing and some nice singing. Double E, my favourite track on here. It's a bit of a bluesy blues sort of track. Great vocals. Super little song. Devil's Sidewalk, another of my favourites on here. I just like the rawness of this one. It's just plug in and go with a little bit of electric distorted guitar. Leave the Drive-In. A lot of these tracks are very similar in the structure, but there's nothing wrong with this because the lyrics are fantastic. Great song that is. Then we get Carmichael. It's 10 minutes. There's a couple of bits it could have shortened, but it isn't a bad song. Bandit, a really nice story on this. It's more spoken word. It's a lot of fun. It's a good track. Grandpa's Interview. Oh, it may be long, but the lyric and the story really hooks you in. Bringing Down Dinner, a great bass line on here. I think it's going to be Billy, of course. It's a great Billy bass line. I quite like that one. Then we got Sun Green, some nice little bits on here. Doesn't flow as good. It's got some nice guitar solos. It could have been split up a little bit more than 12 minutes. Be the Rain starts really well, and the end of it really fizzles out. Really good album. Some of the tracks over 10 minutes need to be a little bit shorter, but you sort of get the gist of this one, so I'm going to give it an RTO ranking of 7 out of 10. Okay, I need a quick drink, all this talking. Right, coming in at number 9 then, from 2012, and it's Psychedelic Pill. We've got Neil Young with Billy, Ralph and Frank. So it's the sort of classic lineup, one of the classic lineups of Crazy Horse with Neil. So we've got Drifting Back. It's 27 minutes long. But what makes it okay, it's sort of, there's natural breaks in it, so you've really got about 3 or 4 separate tracks on it within the tracks, so that's why I don't mind it as much, because there is that sort of natural break in the song. It's some nice guitar work on it from Neil. It is a really good piece of music, actually. Psychedelic Pill itself, my favourite track. That riff from Neil is great, absolutely top draw. And they got some nice guitar work as well from both him and Frank. Great track. Reminder in, again, it's a long one, but these long tracks on this album have naturally got natural breaks. Some great guitar playing from both Frank and Neil. Also, you've got a great bass line from Billy in this. He sort of, when the mood changes, he switches into a different role, and again I think it's held together by Ralph's drumming. He's the man that guides the tracks through, and it really works. Born in Ontario, a great little track, solid. So we'll move on to disc 2. It's Twisted Road, second favourite track on here. It's one of the shorter tracks, and it's a fantastic vocal, short, sharp song. She's Always Dancing. And once again, there's a couple of high notes on here that Neil struggled with, but it's a decent track. For the Love of Man, a nice gentle track. Like the vocal from Neil on that one. Walk Like a Giant, some great riffs on here. I like the bit of whistling on it as well, really adds to it. It's a good little track to end the album. Some great tracks on here. Even the longer ones, so I'm going to give that an RTO ranking of 7.2. Okay, coming in at number 8 from 1996, Broken Arrow. So it's Neil, Ralph, Frank and Billy. So we've got the first track, Big Time. Super opening track, 7 minutes long. The drumming from Ralph on here is fantastic. From the minute it starts, the guitar work is great as well. Some nice sounds on this good opening track. Loose Train, 9-minute song, but an excellent song. The guitar work between Frank and Neil is fantastic. You can hear that both of them when you listen to this under the headphones. It's excellent. My favourite track on this one though is called Slip Away. It's a long 8-minute track. You've got Frank and Neil sort of taking lead on the guitars, and as ever Ralph and Billy, that engine room, really grinding this one out. It's a good track. Changing Highway, it's a little short track. It's got a very 60s feel to it. That's quite good. And then Scattered, Let's Think About Living. It's alright. It's probably the weakest track on here. I don't think it's a great vocal. This Town, a nice little rocker, melodic, some excellent riffs in this track. Music Arcade, which is a nice little instrumental track on the acoustic, really works. And then they do a cover to end the album, a Jimmy Reed number, Baby What You Want to Do to Me. Really good. A lot of fun. Pretty solid album. Even the live track at the end with the Jimmy Reed track, very good. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 7.3. Okay, coming in at number 7. Go to 1994 now, and the Sleep with Angels album. So with Neil on here, it's Frank, Billy, and Ralph. And the first out track is called My Heart. Now I love this track. It's got sort of a harpsichord sound on it, and it really adds to it, and it's a nice vocal from Neil. Prime of Life. It's okay. Nothing special about it. But my favourite track on here is Drive By, and it's got a great guitar solo on it and a piano piece that's absolutely wonderful. Sleep with Angels. The arrangement of this is really nice. I love the effects on the guitars, and some great drumming from Ralph on that one. Western Heroes next, a nice gentle sort of flow with this one. Super vocal from Neil. I love that track. Change Your Mind, another 14-minute track, but what makes this good, it's broken up by 2 great guitar solos. Absolutely brilliant track, especially the solos. Blue Eden comes next, another of my favourites on here. It's got a real bluesy guitar sound on it, which I like. Safeway Cart, atmospheric here, very ambient, great bass line from Billy. Train of Love, not too bad. I do like the vocal and the harmonies on it, it really works. Then we have Trans Am, which is an ambient track with some nice guitar work on. Then we have a track called A Piece of Crap. It's just one of them tracks, plug in the instruments, turn a little bit of distortion on the guitar and rock away. And that's what I like. Very simple. A Dream That Can Last. The best bit of this is the piano work. If it weren't for that, it'd be quite a dreary track. But the piano just lifts it. Once again, another solid album. A couple of tracks on here that I'm not so keen on, but on the whole, it's a good listen. So I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 7.4. Okay. Coming in at number 6 is an album that was actually recorded in between the year 2000 and 2001, but was not released until 2022. And it's Toast. Neil Young, Ralph Molina, Frank Sampiero and Billy Talbot, and vocals by Peggy Young and Astrid Young, and on the trumpet we have Mr. Tom Bray. First track on here is one of my favourite tracks, and it's one of my favourite tracks of the later albums of Crazy Horse and Neil, and it's called Quit. I think it's got a really good vocal, and it's, you know, it's Crazy Horse just by the sound of it. It's just great. But my favourite track on here is the second one, Standing in the Light. It's just a good old rocker. What an excellent vocal from Neil. Going Home. Love Ralph's drums on this. I've always liked Ralph's drumming. I think he's a super little drummer, and the guitar work is good on that as well. Timberline, a really good track. I do like the guitar work on this, very solid. Gateway of Love, another long song, split into 3 different sort of movements. Absolutely fantastic. How You Doing? Relaxing. The guitar work on here is so gentle. Really good track. Boom Boom Boom. It's actually called She's a Healer, that appears on another album at some stage, but I do like the track. Pretty solid album. I don't know why it took 10 years to get it released. Must be some contractual thing. but when they released it, it's pretty good. So I'm going to give it an RTO ranking of 7.5. Okay, coming in at number 5 is the 2012 album Americana, and it's the first collaboration with Crazy Horse that Neil done since 2003. These are all sort of older American folk songs, and they've done really well. So you've got Neil, Billy, Ralph and Frank. Now the first one is Oh Susanna. Now this is written by Stephen Foster. This goes back to the 1840s, 1850s, and it's called Oh Susanna. I've heard one or two versions of this, and I think this is a pretty good version. They've kept it in a nice arrangement. Excellent little track. Clementine, which we know more as Oh My Darling Clementine. This goes back to 1884, and they do a really nice version of it actually. I really like that track. Then we have Tom Dooley, which again is a pretty bizarre one. It's a folk song based on a murder of a woman called Laura Foster in Wilkes County, North Carolina, by Tom Dooley. It's a dark song, but the arrangement and the vocals make it quirky as well. I don't mind it at all. Okay, the dark song, but it's one of the most famous murder ballads you'll ever hear. Then we get Gallows Pole. Yes, it is the one that Led Zeppelin done, but this sounds nothing like the Led Zeppelin version. It's really good. Okay, the next one is a song that I've never heard the original until I did a top 10, and the original was done by the Silhouettes, and it got to number 1 in America, and it's called Get a Job. And I quite like this, and they do a very good version of it. Travel On. Everyone on who knows this song, it's a good version of it. High Flying Bird, written in the 60s, and Judy Hens kind of hit with it. For this version's a lot better. Then we have Jesus Chariot Shall Be Coming Round the Mountain. Yes, this is probably the rockiest version I have ever heard of this. And then they do a great version of Woody Guthrie's This Land Is Your Land. Very, very good. Then we have Wayfaring Stranger, which goes back, it's done in a reckon you can do this in a round apparently, and it's a gospel song. It's really good. I remember we've done this at school many, many years ago. And then we have God Save the Queen. No. Mullered it. I know it's not the best national anthem in the world, but they mullered it. Okay, this is a cover album, but I love it. Except God Save the Queen, because that's awful. But I like these old American folk songs, and there's some old favourites on there, so I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 7.6. Okay then, coming in at number 4 from 1990, Ragged Glory. Neil, Frank, Billy and Ralph. Country Home. This is a really good song. Some great guitar work on this all round. Great vocals as well. Then we have White Line. Like this track, it's got a great rolling guitar sound on it all the way through. Okay, up next is a track with a rude title called Fucking Up. But it's a great rocker. Who cares it says it's got a rude word in it, but it just rocks. Absolutely killer track. Then we have Over and Over, solid track. It's an 8-minute track, but it's just really, really good. Solid guitar work, some nice vocals as well. Love to Burn, 10 minutes long, but it doesn't seem 10 minutes. It just really kicks. Excellent track. Farmer John. This was done by Don Harris and Dewey Terry, and it's in version of it. I think it's a little bit more beefier than the original. Then we have Mason on the Hill. Once again, some great guitar works. My favourite track on here is Daze That Used to Be. It's got a country feel to it, but it's got a little bit of grunt. Another of my favourites on here is a 10-minute track called Love and Only One. Again, it sort of naturally has a break in it without stopping, and it works well. Mother Earth, national anthem, lots of guitars on it, some nice harmonies. Now, isn't it a little fact? In 2019, Rolling Stone magazine voted this the 36th greatest grunge album. I can't see nothing grunge about it. But I like the album. And I'm going to give it an RTO ranking of 8 out of 10. That was bizarre. Okay, coming in at number 3. From 1975. It's the great album Zuma. So it's classic sort of lineup of Crazy Horse with Neil. We've got Frank and Billy and Ralph. And we've got some extras on here. We've got Tim Drummond on bass on Pardon My Heart. Stephen Stills, bass and backing vocals on Through My Sails. Backing vocals on Through My Sails. David Crosby and Graham Nash. So you've basically got Crazy Horse that on one track, Crazy Horse and Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and Russ Kungle on the congas. So the first track is called Don't Cry No Tears. The simplicity of this track makes it so good. It's a great vocal as well. Love that track. Danger Bird, a really good song. It's melodic, relaxing sort of in a funny way. Love that track. Pardon My Heart, this is a real great song. Great vocal from Neil. There's some lovely harmonies from the guys on this one. Looking for a Love. It's a real country song, this one. It's very similar to what, excuse me, got something in my eye, that's better, that he did with Crosby, Stills and Nash. That's why I like it. It's got that feel to it. Barstool Blues is my favourite track on here. Great vocal, great blues track all round. Stupid Girl, my favourite track on here with the guitar solo. It just absolutely kills. Drive Back rocks out, another killer guitar solo on that. Cortez the Killer, the solo is good, and then we have Through My Sails, which is a beautiful track. Basically, it's Crosby, Stills and Nash and Crazy Horse and Neil Young. And they use their sort of skills together on that one. It's very simple, but it's beautiful. This is a great album from top to bottom, a really good listen. And I'm going to give it an RTO ranking of 8.3. Okay, coming at number 2. This is from 1981 and it's Reactor. Neil's on here, Frank's on here, Billy and Ralph. So the first track opens up with Opera Star, which is probably one of the best opening tracks on any of their albums. It's rock and roll, it's dramatic, it's absolutely wonderful. Surfer Joe and Mow the Sleeves. I like this. It's sort of really got a little groove to it. Some great singing on that one. T-Bone, one of my favourites. It's just a great rocker with a fantastic guitar solo. Get Back on It. Another rock. This is rock and roll with a great bit of piano in it. Absolutely wonderful track. Southern Pacific. I like this. Ralph's drumming gives it that impression of a steam engine rolling along the tracks. Really adds to that. Motor City. Now this has got a different tempo. And it's Ralph's sort of control of that tempo that everyone sort of walks around. Good track. Rapid Transit, another great rocker. Absolutely killer track. Shots, some great drumming from Ralph on this. It is just absolutely brilliant. It's a raunchy, raw sound to it. I think this is probably one of the heaviest albums that Crazy Horse and Neil Young made. It's full of great tracks. so I'm going to give it an RTO ranking of 8.5. But if you haven't guessed, my number one album is it's from 1969, and it's Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere. So on here is Neil Young, Danny Whitten, Billy Talbot and Rolf Molina. Additional musicians, Bobby Notkoff on the violin, Robin Line on guitar and harmony on Round and Round. First track on here is the beautiful Cinnamon Girl. Now it was on that early Daze album, and you could see that was going to be a good track, and they've cleaned this up and added little bits, and it's a fantastic track. It's probably one of my favourite tracks that Neil Young ever performed on. Wonderful track. Then we have the title track, Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere. Great country song. Got a bit of heavy guitar in there, and then the singing and the harmonies is just fantastic. Round and Round, It Won't Be Long. I must admit, it's not my favourite track on here. It's probably the weakest track for me. I just didn't connect with that one. Then we got Down by the River, a classic. Just a wonderful track. There's not much you can say about it, that it just flows beautifully. It's a long track, but it's got such a flow to it. Then we have The Losing End, When You're On. A great vocal from Neil, superb stuff. Running Dry, Requiem for the Rockets. I love the violin on it. It just gives it that extra depth and eeriness to the track. And then the last track, Cowgirl in the Sound. One of my favourite longer tracks, probably my favourite longer track by them. It's just rouse drumming through this track. It's amazing. Billy's bass playing on this track is super, and it's got a couple of really good guitar solos on it. Excellent track to end the album. I think this is just one of them quintessential albums that you've got to have if you like Neil Young. I love this album. Play it a lot. You're going to play it loud as well. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8.8. So there we go. There's part one. Next week is part two, and we're going to start. This is where we're going to start looking at Neil's solo stuff without Crazy Horse, and we're going to go to the 60s first. He only released the one album in the 60s, and it's a pretty good album, so we'll be doing that. Okay, that's all for now. We'll be back tomorrow. Bit of a change around tomorrow. First up is we'll wander down the sidewalk, where we're going to look at the top 10 for the 6th of January 1991. And then we've got a review of the Round of 16 and Battle Royale. Now, because Dave had his operation this week, he's unable to put headphones and his microphone on. So, and he's got a dressing on his head. I can understand why he doesn't want to come up on screen. So, we've got a stand-in person to help me tomorrow, and that is Mike from Mike Vinyl Spiral. He'll be with me tomorrow as we do a quick review of the Round of 16. Well, I'll tell you who I would have voted for, and I think Mike's going to tell you who he actually voted for. So that's all coming tomorrow, and don't forget tomorrow night we have got the live stream at 8 PM. So enjoy the sun today if you're in the UK. I think we've all got a bit of sun today. Warm us up, and make us a little bit more positive. So have a great day, everyone. Bye for now.